skill issue. Two words that bring laughs and gaffs, as well as tears and fears. The phrase is clearly important to anyone who plays games in any serious capacity. If someone cites a skill issue, they mean that you aren't skilled enough to get past some given problem the game presents. This obstacle can be pretty much anything. Bosses, mechanics, techniques, meta, other players. The concept of skill in games is a topic that I've been interested in making a video on for quite some time now, so why don't we just start the video, for crying out loud. Firstest of all, let's talk about the entry level, the skill floor. A skill floor is the lowest level of competent skill that a game provides. In some games, the only requirements for reaching the skill floor are having a functioning brain and knowing the controls. Some examples of some low skill floor games are games like your typical platformer, FPS, or board game. This isn't to say that beginners will do well at any of these games, but beginners will be able to grasp the content of these games much more easily than they will with games like your typical fighting game, MOBA, or strategy game. Next is the skill ceiling, which refers to the highest level of play. Again, the actual skill ceiling varies from game to game, with most games having skill ceilings much higher than their skill floors, oftentimes being completely unrecognizable from it. The slope between the skill floor and skill ceiling can seem impossibly steep to many, and climbing the gap can seem like quite the arduous task. The range between the skill floor and ceiling is referred to as the skill gap. The skill gap is interesting to think about since everyone lies somewhere on the skill gap, as long as they can understand how to play the game. I would say that most players fall into, generally, three categories, which we can call low skill, mid skill, and high skill, which I realize are three very boring names. But I digress. Low skill players are players who are new to any given game, who may grasp the basic mechanics but not really understand how to go about any new challenges the game presents. Medium skill players are players who are capable of comprehending how to go about a specific problem they're facing in a game, but may struggle executing their goals. Medium skill players will also usually make up the majority of players. High skill players are players who have more or less mastered the mechanics of the game to a point where they're able to defeat most of the challenges of the game with relative ease, sometimes even being able to challenge themselves in new creative ways. For a quick example of the difference between these groups, here's the skill level of each in one game, Modern Tetris. A low skill player is someone who can place blocks down. Maybe they can plan out their block placements and even get a Tetris. A medium skill player is someone who can perform technical block placements like T-spins and implement them into their play without much thought. A high skill player is someone who can do basically everything with minimal effort. Stacking, setups, combos, perfect clears, washing machines. These three groups are often unbalanced within any given game. Older games tend to be populated mostly with high-skill players, while new and popular games are more likely to be filled with low-skill players. There are exceptions, obviously, but unless a retro game gets serious attention from a streamer or YouTube algorithm or something, it'll usually have little to no low-skill players. And I can't say I blame them. Try picking up an older game which is filled with sweats and tell me how fun that experience is. My final point for today will be about climbing the gap. Really, there isn't any right way to do it, but I'd say that playing the game is a good method. This may seem like a joke, but really, just playing the game consistently is one of the most reliable ways to improve. You can also try watching someone else who's more skilled than you, and try picking up their techniques. Try practicing specifically around the aspects of the game that give you issues. And most importantly, try not to get discouraged. Just because you can't beat Plants vs. Zombies now, doesn't mean you'll never beat it. Unless you're a journalist, in which case I'm not sorry for you. You probably don't even like video games anyways. If you do get discouraged though, it isn't a huge deal. Most games aren't made for everyone, and even the gamingest gamers won't like everything they play. But really, it's just a skill issue.